fade in, y'all. All right, thank you for the notice. Oh, are we? And here we are. We're live. Hello, makers of the world, coming to you live in spirit from I3 Detroit in the innovative Ferndale, Michigan. This is the Make Something Wonderful podcast, exploring all the fantastic ways we create. I'm Thomas Tusano.
I'm Matt Carpenter, and this evening we're joined by Bill Putt, a member of I3 Detroit pretty much from the beginning, the operator of the Open Soda Project, and a longtime contributor to Penguicon. Welcome, Bill. Can you tell us a little bit about Penguicon?
I sure can. Yeah, thank you for having me. So Penguicon started out back in the day as a pure 100% mixture of the science fiction community cons and the open source community, Linux and stuff like that, which is why it's called Penguicon, because Linux, the mascot is Tux the Penguin. And it has so basically it was a big experiment to see what we can do at con, what kind of new and innovative things we can happen in a convention type setting. And that has since grown into basically any kind of geekdom you can possibly fathom under one roof convention. And it's just wonderful and awesome, a weekend of fun and knowledge and geekiness.
Yeah, I've been out to it. I've only made it to one, but it's very interesting, like how well those communities kind of mesh together in that kind of environment. Like they're very different interest groups, but there's a surprising amount of overlap, it seems like.
Yeah, there's about an 80% overlap with a lot of things with those communities. And at this point, it's a self-selected community because I used to I helped run room parties trying to get people to show up to Penguicon. And one person would walk in, see the guest list, and say, oh, this has too much sci-fi, walk out. The next person will walk in, look at the guest list, say, oh, it's got too much tech, and walk out. So it's the people that are okay with it being a pretty good mixture of the both that choose to go to Penguicon. So a lot of the outliers don't get involved. So
very cool. Thomas, you want to kind of run us through our weekly PSAs before we jump into specific questions?
Absolutely. So let's see here what we got. Let's see. A reminder for anyone who'd like to make Twitch content to support the i3 community, please reach out through chosen platform, be it either Discord, Twitter, Instagram, email. Please find a way to reach out to us. We'll make ourselves available. I believe my information is in the description, as well as information for i3 Detroit. Normally it's contact@i3detroit.org. And they'll redirect the email angrily to me or thomas.tusano@gmail.com. Yeah, remember, to the members and viewers, subscribing, telling people about us helps us out and helps support the space. We eventually do want to get this to a point where we can get it so that it does support the efforts of i3 Detroit more directly. So yeah, if you subscribe or you interact with the show or you post a link somewhere and say, hey, tune into this cool podcast every Friday night at 9:30, then it does or will go towards helping the space at some point eventually. So we're building up the steam, and we've got our 100 subscribers. So more or less we are going to, really excited on that. So we are going to work on seeing what it takes to get a custom URL so that, we don't have to post a show link every week. So that way you can just tune into one link every week at 9:30 on Friday. So to roll right into the questions, Bill, what do you want to set the record straight on? Because we've had a lot of different trades and crafts on here. A lot of our guests, they have something that's misconstrued about what they do. A big misconception that they're like, oh, I'm so annoyed with X. People always assume I do Y, so on and so forth. What is yours kind of deal?
Well, in terms of the Open Soda Project, there might be a couple others professionally that I haven't thought of, but in terms of the Open Soda Project, whenever I say I make my own soda, they instantly say, oh, you mean like SodaStream? It's like, no, Not like SodaStream. That's just buying a couple of components and mixing it together. We actually buy all of the oils, all of the everything, and mix them together and make it from the lowest possible amount available. So that's the biggest thing about the Open Soda project. I'm sure there's more professionally, but I haven't been able to think of it.
I'm going to have to admit a sin on my part. I do have a SodaStream in my house. I do use it quite frequently, and
that's fine.
I will say I looked at the pictures you had on the stream and immediately went, damn man, I want one of those. Like screw the little plastic jobby up in the kitchen with the tank attached. I want one of those things. So.
Yeah. And actually, we had so many people who had SodaStreams at i3 for a while. We custom made an adapter that went from the CO2 canister to the refillable, to the SodaStream, the CO2 cartridges, to make them refillable because they're not actually refillable.
Yeah.
And it's much cheaper doing it that way, of course.
Yeah. I guess I've never actually used a SodaStream. That's the equivalent of the ink cartridges for the printer thing, where they get you on prices and everything.
Right, yeah.
Oh, it's unbelievable to get those tanks refilled. I might have to talk with you later because I would love to figure out how to make that machine go to a refillable because I will chug soda water all day. So
yeah, I forget who in the shop made it, but I'll have to dig through my my archive, see if I can figure that out.
Yeah, awesome.
So, I guess the first question that I would have. So, how did you kind of get involved with or start kind of the Open Soda project? Like, where did that come from, or where did you kind of get the inspiration from?
So that came out of PenguinCon 3. I was the con chair for PenguinCon 3. Matt Arnold, who's also an i3 member, I think currently, I'm not entirely sure. Both of us were kind of in charge of the convention that year. He was kind of my number two. And we invited a guest of honor by the name of Cory Doctorow. Cory Doctorow was involved with a project. It was a software company called Open Cola, and they were trying to get people to understand what open source software was by explaining, okay, here's a bottle of cola, here's the recipe on how you make it. That's what open source software is like, is we give you the product, but we also give you the source code so you can make modifications to that. So Cory Doctorow had his company, Open Cola, had put out the recipe online, and we thought, wouldn't it be great to have a batch of the Open Cola at PenguinCon for Cory Doctorow being the guest of honor. So me and Matt Arnold and at the time the guy that was running the beer, Mark Schlaga, got together and tried to make a batch of this stuff. And the formulation and the documentation and everything was just absolutely terrible. We stumbled through it, came up with something that I found undrinkable, but it went away. Like, the full 5 gallons was gone and served at the con. So clearly there was something to it. And then at that convention, a gentleman by the name of Chuck Child, who has recently passed away, he got a batch. He got a cup of it, and he said, "I can do better." So he got in touch with us, and because we weren't sure if we were going to continue it, we were just going to make a batch of it, say, "Hey, that was cool," and then continue on. But he got involved, and he's like, "No, we're gonna take this to scratch. We're gonna reformulate everything, and we're gonna do this right." So we worked in people's kitchens, and we figured out what we dug into as much research and history of pop and soda making as we could. And so for PenguinCon 4, we had 3 different batches of Open Cola. One we called Dev, one we called Ferndale, and one that was Open Cola. The Ferndale had a little bit more cinnamon, so it was a little bit spicier. The Dev had no flavoring whatsoever. It was just the sweetness and the water and that kind of stuff. There was no flavor oil whatsoever. People still thought it was good, and the caramel coloring, that's the other thing. So that speaks to how much color affects how you perceive taste. Is how good people thought it tasted as a cola, despite having no cola oil in it whatsoever. And that went over really well, and it was really popular, and so something that we kept building on. And then so by the next year, I was like, we can get all these other oils as well. Let's make other flavors. So the first non-cola flavor we made was a bubblegum pop that I really loved. And then so after that, I'm like, well, we really can't call ourselves Open Cola anymore. We should come up with a new name for our group because we are diverging from that path. And so then we started going with Open Soda because I thought calling ourselves Open Pop sounded stupid.
I was gonna say, I thought you were in the Midwest here.
Yeah, so we have had people say, "Hey, aren't you from Michigan?" And it's Open Pop sounds like you're opening a pop.
Yeah. And Open Fago probably had too high of a likelihood of lawsuit.
Yeah, so Open Soda just seemed to flow better, in my opinion, and that's what we ended up with. So
very nice, awesome. Yeah, I didn't realize that there was that much in the way of like flavor oils and whatnot that were actually just available that you could buy for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I guess I really thought about what went into those other than just sugar and water.
Yeah, the one of our biggest challenges at first was sourcing out all the different oils. The original Open Cola oil, the Open Cola flavoring called for all these different things like lavender and nutmeg and coriander and this really expensive thing called neroli. And we found that they really negatively affected the flavor, so we don't put them in ours. So the base of our cola is lemon, orange, grapefruit, lime, and cinnamon. And then you actually have 3 different acids in pop. You've got the carbonic acid, which is when you mix CO2 with water, you get carbonic acid, the phosphoric acid, and the citric acid. And so because of all that acid, that's why you need so much sugar in pop to make it palatable.
Interesting. Cool.
Now, I do have to point out, I don't know if you've seen it, but there is actually a pop culture media reference, pop culture, that I'm now remembering when you talked about the natural oils and stuff like that. Have you ever heard of something called Dr. Stone, Bill?
I have not.
So it's a really interesting show, and I'll try not to spoil any of it for anyone who hasn't seen it. But more or less, one of the characters, all he asks for, it's a kid, it's like a genius savant kid who wakes up like a few thousand years in the future, and all of mankind is gone, and he has to survive on his own with skills. And someone else from his time period asks him in a trade just to make a cola because he misses it so bad, and he eventually figures it out how to carbonate the water, and it follows like through the scientific steps of how he did it, how he carbonated the water. But he used honey, cilantro, and lemon just to make his syrup. And so I was curious because I'm sitting here, I'm like, I've seen it done before, and I know the premise. Like and there have been people trying this recipe, so I just had to ask. I was so tempted. Like, have you seen this? Have you tried it? Is it real? And people call it Senku Cola because it's the name of the character.
So we actually haven't done a full make a bunch of batches and take it to PinguaCon in a couple years. But if we were in the middle of doing that, that is something I would definitely want to try because we came up with some really weird flavors. And definitely alternative ways of making the soda sweet is definitely stuff we've experimented with. I don't know if we ever thought of honey. I don't know why, because that seems like it would be a perfect thing to try. 2 of the weirdest ones we tried was we did a bacon flavored soda, which was very popular. And then what's that hot sauce that's all the rage?
Sriracha or Frank's?
Sriracha. We did a sriracha flavor. Ooh. And people who like sriracha love the crap out of this thing. I am a super taster, So I don't like either of these two things. They were both nasty to me.
I expected I would I like hot stuff, but I don't know if I would like carbonated sriracha. I don't know if that's a thing that I would enjoy.
Yeah. One thing I always wanted to try, but we never actually got into it well enough, is so pop is a acid-based beverage. I always wondered if you could make a based beverage, but I don't know what you could use as a base to put in the pop. So something I thought
Any pumpkin spice soda would be pretty basic. There's your rim shot.
I've had actually the pumpkin spice soda is very good. I turn into absolutely basic in the fall. I drink and eat pumpkin everything. It is my weakness. I have no regrets and no guilt. I will unabashedly eat pumpkin spice until the cows come home. But yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting. It's just a very what they tell you is pumpkin spice is actually just fall seasonings with apple, which is really funny. So, but I'd love to see a true pumpkin soda, like Harry Potter, like comical levels of pumpkin kind of deal, because I know they do that in that series. So
we did make a butterbeer, and our butterbeer was very popular.
Absolutely.
And the butterbeer was pretty much just cream soda with butterscotch.
Ooh, that sounds very interesting.
Yeah, that sounds really
cream soda is easy. You just put vanilla in.
It's just vanilla?
Yeah, it's all cream soda is vanilla.
Huh. Yeah, and so for the guests at home, I also have to answer chat in a quick second here, but for the guests at home, I don't know if you can see, like, scrolling through opensoda.com, I believe, .com?
No, .org.
.org, sorry, that's why I double check. Opensoda.org has all of Bill's recipes. He recommends, though, that you use a glass or a metal container, probably because the acids leach things out of the plastic.
Yep. The very first time we made a batch, we found floating pieces of plastic, and we're like, "Oh, this is not good. Let's not do this."
Yikes! Yeah. Oof. So either way, so we have all the recipes up. Opensoda.org. Please go crash his website. Give it the Reddit hug of death, even though it's more like a hug of mild discomfort at the moment. But either way, Dalbin Taylor, one of the guests that shows up from week to week, he's asking, I don't have audio right now. If I made something, how could I get a picture/pictures to you guys? Basically tweet at Tom Tusano, and I'll get the exact Twitter link and put it in the
use the hashtag.
And yes, use the hashtag make something wonderful. Hashtag make something wonderful. Let me sign on here, and I think it's this one. No, Twitter, what are you doing to me? This is. I'm just gonna log into my phone and double check. But yes, I will post my Twitter handle in the Facebook chat. Or sorry, not in the Facebook chat, in the YouTube chat. God, my week has been rough. And that you guys can just tweet at that tag, and then we will show it later on the podcast. So it would be at.
While you're doing that, I'm going to ask another question. So it sounds like you've kind of worked on a lot of different things, Bill. Can you kind of talk a little bit about your like design or ideation kind of process? Like when you think of something that you want to do, like how do you kind of go through realizing that? It sounds like experimentation is a big piece.
Oh yeah, experimentation is a big part of that, and it depends on what the project is. A lot of times, I see stuff on the screen, and I just want to duplicate it in real life, and that's just getting as many screenshots as possible. Any other people who've done the thing, reference photos, stuff like that. Just gathering as much data information about it as possible, and then trying to work it out on my own, experiment and stuff like that. If it's something that never existed and is just in my head and I want to get it out, I'll try to, somehow represent it in the real world, either on the computer with a 3D modeling or just drawing on a piece of paper. And then a lot of times my process is just thinking about it for a while. Sometimes an idea just has to be in my head for long enough to come out and like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Now I'm going to go do it. And then just start trying it. And, something happens on the way, try to adjust and move along.
I think you do an awful lot of 3D printing, I believe, right? Like that's one of the things that you work on a lot.
So I don't actually do the real 3D printing with like a 3D printer. So my problem is that 3D printers currently aren't yet large enough for a lot of the things that I want to do.
Okay.
So I have come up with some ways of 3D printing using a laser cutter, basically. And so I mostly do this for cosplay stuff, but this doesn't have to be cosplay related at all. This is just if you want to take a file or a thing that exists in fantasy and bring it to real life. A couple of different things that I use to make that happen. So the biggest thing is there's you have to have a 3D file, of course, but there's a program. It used to be called Autodesk 123. Hold on, I'm saying it wrong. Autodesk 123D Make. They had a whole series of stuff, 123, 3D, whatever, and it was really wonderful. And I don't know why they got rid of it. But the new version of Autodesk 123D Make is called Autodesk Slicer, and inside of Slicer, there's a option to laser cut into cardboard, and then you have one of two ways of representing that in the real world. And I don't know if you have those pictures I sent earlier, but one of them was the hand, the Hellboy Hand of Doom. Is I needed to figure out how to make that geometry for the Hand of Doom. So I imported the 3D image I generated and used the stacked slices so that it cuts all of the things out of cardboard. And then you glue them together in the order in which it tells you to, and then you have a 3D representation of your object. Now it is pixelated. I don't know if that's the right word for 3D model.
Yeah.
And so for most of the time, that's okay with me because I'm just getting a rough idea of what I'm trying to go for, and then translate it into another medium. But there are times when the cardboard I'm cutting out is the medium which I work with. So right now, one of the projects, and I wish my camera would work so I could show you, I've got sitting here, I'm working on a Han Solo frozen in carbonite sculpture to hang on my wall. And so it's the torso and legs of Han Solo, and I have all the stacks glued together, and I embedded it with fiberglass resin so that it's nice and stiff and hard. And then the next step in this process, I've done this also with another project. So the next step is you take plaster from drywall plaster, and you smear that over it to cover up the pixelation. And then you sand it to get a nice smooth texture. So the drywall sands away real easy, and the fiberglass embedded cardboard does not sand away. So that gives you your curves, your contours of where to follow, and then you end up with a nice, smooth, finished product that you can paint. And then on top of that, I usually put another coat of fiberglass to secure it up.
Yeah. Huh.
And then so that gives so that's one thing I'm excited about getting back to work on once I got a house now. So my current project is house. But once I get enough money, I get back to the Han Solo frozen carbonite and get them hung on my wall. So the other thing you could do with a slicer is you can do, I can't remember what they call it, but basically they cut a whole bunch of stuff in the y-axis and a whole bunch of stuff in the z-axis, and then you assemble them like slot A into tab B. And there's another picture of that in my Making of Baymax folder in my other website, billputtcosplay.com, where I wanted to make a little model of Baymax. And so I've got a whole bunch of cardboard cut in one direction and the other direction, and then I stitched them together to make a 3D model of the two out of the two stacks, and it gives you a really good representation. So that's how I quote unquote 3D print, despite the fact that I don't have a large enough 3D printer and I don't actually use 3D printers.
It sounds like a lot of this stuff could also have a lot of potential with like a hot wire foam cutter, right? Because I would think that foam would sand a lot easier, and you would maybe could avoid some of the middle layers. But that is, I have seen a few pieces around the laser cutters that were done with that Autodesk software. There's like a skull made out of cardboard and stuff.
Yeah, the skull. It's funny that you mentioned foam because my newest current project, I was actually going to have it done for Star Wars Day this year, but then everything got canceled. And so the most recent project I've been working on is I'm trying to make a Han Solo on a Tauntaun costume, and so I made the images out of paper, which I then transferred onto foam, and then cut the foam with a turkey carver, include it together to try to make the Tauntaun. So the Tauntaun, because it would be in bars and settings where you don't want a rigid structure. So I got a really nice foam that's crushable but retains its shape. And yeah, so I'm using the same technique with foam to try to make a 3D representation of a Tauntaun.
You have
Awesome.
that is an accomplishment. But the one thought that came into my head was memory foam Tauntaun, and just how comfortable it must be to sleep in. Because we all have to go there. Like, yeah, it's a Tauntaun. It has to be said. It's synonymous with the word sleeping bag.
There we go. Yeah.
So, all
right.
Yeah, I saw your face. I saw your faces smiling. I'm like, they got a joke. I see it. They got a joke.
Yeah, we have. I mean, tonight it's more in sync than ever. You've probably seen some of my gestures tonight. Some of my coworkers are watching. I'd like to say hi, Danny. Hi out there. And I believe Josh is the other one who normally tunes in to this because they're also tradespeople. Either way, as far as it goes, we've on the same brainwave as nonverbal communication. So the nudges and the eye contact and the whatever else you've been seeing is like reference, like go look at the Google Doc, like go check out, I changed something, like is the cursor moving? Am I telling you to shut up and stop giving away our secrets? Yes I am. But
I can mute you, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think Alec could give you mod powers to do that. That'd make for a show. But either way, so Bill, getting back to you, because again, you're the guest of honor this evening. What has Open Soda taught you that you've used in other projects?
Oh, let's see. Okay. I was never huge with the metric system. It was metric system is like, okay, it exists, it's fine, it's okay, whatever. The metric system is so amazing when dealing with Open Soda that I am now much more, let's just frickin' go to the system because it's amazing and wonderful. Anything you want to do, if you wanted to scale it down, you just move the decimal place. There's no conversion. It's just right there for you. It's amazing and wonderful, and I love it.
What am I gonna do with all this knowledge I have about how many pints are in a quart and all this stuff?
Exactly. None of that stuff. It was just pure liters to milliliters to what millimeters, whatever it was, liters.
No,
Yeah.
we can 10 times the recipe by moving this amazing little dot that away or that away. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
What was a really awesome discovery was that because we either make a 2-liter batch size or a 5-gallon keg size, and pretty much if you multiply a 2-liter by 10, you get almost a 5-gallon keg. So all of those recipes, if we wanted to make a full a full keg size, we just multiplied it by 10.
Yeah, there you go. Pony up.
There you go.
So
Ideal. So that's actually kind of a perfect segue to kind of a question that I had. So, like, how big is the kind of homebrew soda community? Because I feel like I hear a lot about people homebrewing beer, and this is pretty much, with the exception of the occasional time when the open soda rig has been in the space at I3, is about the only time I've ever heard about like people homebrewing soda.
So it's not huge, but it's not insignificant. Every once in a while, I will see popping up on YouTube people talking about making soda at home, and some of them use similar techniques to what we developed. There was another group from the UK, and I don't think they're active anymore. They were called Cube Cola. And so while we were focusing on making a better recipe for open cola, they were focusing on taking the exact same recipe and developing different different methodologies of that same formulation. And I discovered them about 3 years after we both started about the same time, and I discovered them about 3 years into it. And we learned a great deal from them. I don't know. We sent them all our stuff. We don't know if they ever took anything to heart from us. But one of the best things they had come up with is the problem with open soda is you have to break the oil droplets into very, very extremely small particles to get it to bind with the agent. I can't think what you call that. When you make a
oil and water mixture.
Yeah, when you try
Emulsion.
Yeah.
What are we calling it?
Fire.
Emulsion. So when you're trying to make the emulsion, you want the really teeny tiny oil droplets, and so what their solution was whisk on a drill. They took a kitchen whisk and modified it to fit as an attachment onto a hand drill, and got a beaker that was about the same size as that. And you put the spurs to it, and it does a great job of emulsifying that. So that's one
part of some kind of Halloween costume, but I'm not sure what.
So if you go to the Open Soda website, opensoda.org, one of the images is the whisk on a drill things that I made. And then there's also a Facebook community for the Open Soda. If you go to Facebook and just search Open Soda, we have a group. And every once in a while we get some new people saying, oh, this is cool, I want to try this out and look at this. So it's not large in any means, way, shape, or form, but there are a few of us around.
Yeah. And I mean, I would imagine you'd also get renewed interest with everything going on and people kind of looking back into homesteading and making things theirself. And you know, as you get with every economic downturn and crisis, you do see some people return kind of back to methods of not off-grid, non-consumerist practices, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that. So either way, like I can imagine you've probably seen some renewed interest. I mean, I definitely was. I was like, that is a cool project. So, and as I said on the opening, I have to pick your brain. I have to go through these notes. I have to get it straight from the horse's mouth. Because this is interesting. So, I mean, have you seen any traffic patterns in your analytics that kind of point that direction as of late?
I don't have any analytics on my sites at all. don't dig that deep, so I can't tell you that data. It might exist somewhere, but I don't have that set up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, every once in a while we'll get some more people on the Facebook group, or I do have YouTube videos up. Those are really hard to find because if you search open soda in YouTube, it'll pull up 10 billion other things besides me. But if you go to opensoda.org, you'll find the YouTube videos. So every once in a while, I'll get some people commenting on there, and we'll get a little bit more traction. And I love talking about open soda, so I'm more than happy to disseminate my knowledge to people about that.
I feel like homebrew soda probably has like a lot more instant gratification than like homebrew beer because like you have to like wait for everything to ferment, right? But like for soda, it's I mean, what's the total time you figure from when you start mixing stuff to when you can be actually drinking it?
When we're in the groove, we could have a new I can't think what you call it. When we make new batches of stuff, when we're trying a new recipe, we can try a new recipe within 10, 15 minutes. And it's ready and done and carbonated, 2-liter batch size. It's not cold, but you can put it over ice.
Yeah.
In 15 minutes. So yeah, instant gratification. So when we run panels at PenguinCon, we actually say, here's all of our oils. Somebody pick out some oils and we'll make that flavor right now. And
no rapid prototyping.
Yeah, exactly. We've actually come up with some really good flavors out of those sessions of people suggesting things that we put into production for serving at PenguinCon.
Nice. So
yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. that is really cool. What is now? So you're active in the i3 community as well. Like PenguinCon and i3 have a lot of crossover as far as it goes. Half the space, half the population just poof around PenguinCon. They disappear for a weekend. And we're like, where'd everyone go? Everything's empty. But what is something you've learned from another i3 member that you weren't expecting?
So the first thing that came to mind about that is I wasn't actually working on it, but I was at the shop, and I don't know if you guys remember this. Is we had a delivery sent to us by Red Bull, and it was this little box. Basically inside of it had a circuit board, and I think the circuit board is on display still at the shop somewhere. And it was a challenge to figure out how to solve the problem to get to the invitation to go to the Red Bull Challenge for Makerspaces. So I was working on my own project at the time, but I was overhearing what they were talking about. And I remember Nate walking into the shop while they had, Big Nate, walking into the shop while they had a noise going on. They figured out that if they hooked up something just right, there was some sort of noise coming out of the board. And Nate walks in and says, "That sounds like a picture." And we were like, "What? How can sound make a picture?" And so he hooked it up to an oscillator, and sure enough, there was a picture that the sound was making.
Low scan TV, right?
Yeah, something like that. So I never knew anything like that. So that's something that popped in my head on regards to that.
Picture's worth 1,000 oscillations.
Ah.
I've heard some really good stories from that whole thing. That was a fun interesting adventure. That was a little bit before my time, I think, but I think I've seen the pieces of it around.
Yeah.
So how would you kind of suggest that people get started for, like, if they want to work with open soda? It sounds like you have YouTube videos that kind of go through a lot of the content. Is a whisk on a drill like a necessary tool, or are there like tools that you would suggest people get a hold of because they make things a lot easier?
Yeah, it's certainly not necessary. It just it blends the oils better to get a better mouthfeel. So before we were doing that, you could just taste all the different flavor notes instead of it being one smooth note. So before that, I think we were just literally just shaking it up or something. I can't actually remember now. But yeah, it's all the oils that we use are currently through Loran Oils out of Lansing, Michigan. which is super convenient because there's been some days where I just drive out to Loran and pick up the oils rather than waiting for the order because we have to do something right now. The difficult part, difficult things to get are like measuring in really small quantities. So it took us a long time to find a scale that had a small enough quantity, and a pipette to measure out the small liquids. And the other thing that's hard to get a hold of is the phosphoric acid. But you can replace the phosphoric acid with just straight up citric acid, which is really easy to get. And then as far as the small quantities of stuff, a way around that is you take whatever measurement, the smallest measurement that you could accurately get, put that into a dilution, and then figure out a ratio for the dilution to put the right amount into the final product. So that was a thing we came up with before we had the small gram accuracy scale. And so most of the stuff you can find ways around it to do it at home with basic goods. You just, as Thomas mentioned earlier, don't use plastic. You have to use glass or metal, and it has to be actually stainless steel. You can't use brass, I think it is. Whatever they use in beer, we can't use for pop because of the acid. So
yeah, so we've got a couple questions in chat, by the way. I think one of them is meant to torture you, but the other one is a suggestion. Someone named Missy Mitchell is asking, ask him about his attempts to mimic Dr. Pepper, and she says cackle.
Yeah, Missy is an old friend of mine, so I know her well, and she was involved in some of the dev sessions. So we try to make a soda based on Dr. Pepper, and completely and utterly failed. It tasted absolutely absolutely nothing like Dr. Pepper, but it still tasted good. So we called it Dr. Fail and actually had it at PenguinCon.
Now I want to talk. Now I want to taste Dr. Fail, because that. I mean, I'm wondering if it tastes like the gratification of relieving all the pressure of your parents' expectations for you to finish med school.
I don't remember what's in Dr. Fail. I actually don't have all the recipes up on the site. They're basically all just in a folder sitting next to me, written on pieces of paper.
Not safe? The secret recipes aren't in the safe?
No, they're just sitting. If you get in my house, you can find them.
Yeah. So, and Jan, I think you know Jan. I believe she actually is one of the people who suggested you to the show. She says, I want a cardamom soda.
A cardamom soda? I don't even know if I know what cardamom is.
It is used very often in Indian cooking. And they're often like pods, and they're very much associated with like almost that Thanksgiving-y smell, that holiday cooking type smell. Is cardamom pods normally.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much anything you think of, we can probably make a soda out of it. And a lot of them we've tried. We can't guarantee they're good. Like literally for the sriracha, we just poured sriracha in and put the spurs to it with the drill.
Like I can just go upstairs now and take some water and sriracha and put it in my soda stream, and we're good. That's it. That's the result.
Got all the ingredients.
It might not. I don't know.
Will it soda? Like
there's enough sugar in there, you'll be fine.
Yeah. So. Oh,
that's awesome though.
Okay, yeah. I found the Dr. Fail recipe. If you want to know what's in it.
Absolutely.
We got orange, lemon, lime, grapefruit, cinnamon, cherry, anise, raspberry, caramel, sassafras, vanilla extract, and almond extract.
So how do you arrive at something with that many ingredients?
We found a thing online saying what they thought the recipe was. And so we used as many of the flavor oils that we already had, except for, I think, almond, because we're pretty sure almond is in Dr. Pepper. So I think we only bought the almond, and then whatever else we had that seemed like it should be in it, we threw in it. Because supposedly there's 23 flavors in Dr. Pepper.
Yeah. I'm betting you that some of those are in betweens that they just mark, kind of thing, like somewhere between orange, lime, lemon, like all the others. There has to be in between distinct notes that result from blending. That they're just like, yeah, let's call that a flavor. Let's throw them off. There's 23 flavors, but there's 20 ingredients, and a few of these flavors are just the notes, the in betweens.
Yeah, one of the ingredients is love, so I mean that counts for at least 3, right?
Yeah, exactly. So,
that is kind of I'd never really thought about how complicated all of those would end up being.
Yeah, that's a very as a little sommelier might put it. That is a very Dr. Pepper is an evolving soda. It just doesn't sit in your mouth. It it has an open, a closed, and an aftertaste kind of deal.
Oh yeah,
you know,
for sure.
So yeah, I'm kind of like it's just interesting, like thinking about it. And what I mean, even Sprite, even though it's a lemon lime, there are other things going on there that like. I can go upstairs and I can add lemon and lime juice and a sugar syrup to a bottle of club soda. Not even close.
Yeah.
There's so many other things going on there that are just so the other thing that kind of occurs to me, so I kind of have to do two. What do you because I have the script question, and then I have a question I want to get to if we can. What do you view as the apex of your craft? Like, what is the end goal for Open Soda? Like, is toppling Coke off the beverage monopoly the goal for Open Soda, or and also, what disciplines do you borrow from, or what craft might surprise people that you share a lot in common with?
So for Open Soda, what me and Anthony, one of the other guys who helps me a lot, wanted to get to was making a living off of Open Soda. The people that Be Nectar next door to I3 do the mead, and so we were actually in talks with them to say is there a way we can have you help us bottle this and so we could sell it? And the point was what we were going to do is we were going to try to sell Open Soda with the instructions on the back of here's how we made it. Because a lot of times people are like, oh, that's cool. I'd love to know how things are made, but they're too lazy to actually make it. So I think it could be a legitimate business strategy of making the soda, selling it, and also giving away how you actually make it. The other business component was going to be actually making kits with everything you need to start making your own soda. As I said, one of the most difficult things to get is the phosphoric acid. The smallest we could get it was a gallon size, and we've been using it for almost 10 years and still have half a gallon left. The other thing is we have lab pure caffeine and a bunch of other lab pure chemicals that we put into it. And so we were going to put small little vials of all this in, along with a pipette and a pipette pump and little glass things. So right out of the box, you can just follow the instructions and make it yourself. So that was the ultimate goal. We never really got anywhere with it. All of the stuff we looked into for bottling, we just couldn't make money on to get it up and running. So
I do have to. The reason I'm laughing, I'm doing my own stuff on the side to get. So I'm not laughing at that because I understand the effort it goes into making an effort like that, just trying to put yourself out there. But what I'm laughing at is I'm imagining people getting a shipment of vials and pipettes and weight scales and having to explain to somebody, no, I swear, I'm. It's not what it looks like. I do. I appreciate like everything you've told us here tonight, but some of it, like you're just a very humorous guy and a good storyteller, Bill. So I appreciate that about tonight. So and it's been so far informative and just an incredibly great conversation. So um yeah. Um Matt, what you had one for him?
Yes, I was just going to ask, because like we said at the beginning of the show, you've kind of been at least I3 adjacent, basically since the space was founded.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
how did you find I3 in the first place, and what kind of convinced you to stick around for all these years?
So amazingly, how I found I3 was from PinguaCon. PinguaCon, I3 was the hack of honor at PinguaCon. I believe it was PinguaCon 5, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So I'm like, hey, I would love to have a spot to work on projects and stuff. And I showed up. And one of the things I loved about visiting I3 for the first time was a lot of times you'll be sitting around with people and you'll come up with a weird idea and be like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? And like almost immediately it just gets shot down by, oh, that's stupid. Why do you want to do that? But at I3, not only did people encourage you, like, yeah, that sounds like a cool idea. We should do that. Sometimes we just started working on it right then and there. And it made it happen instantly. I think that's how Bump Couch became a thing.
Maybe.
Yeah, when you're that close in that close proximity to all the raw material and tools you can need to do the things, it's hard to come up with an excuse why not to.
Exactly. So yeah, just the energy and the love of doing stuff of I3. It's great when I have a chance to work there.
That's one of the things that I think we've had a few people say on the show, and I've certainly heard people say just around the space about how it's, even if you're not actively working on something at that particular moment, it's just so interesting to listen to what people are working on or talking about, and like just the conversations you get into are just so strange and unique that it's a very interesting experience.
Yeah.
Thomas, over to you.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an interesting conversation that I've had, but Bill, what can you tell us? Because I mean, I would imagine Open Soda has been quiet for a little while, but what is your latest project, and what, any interesting challenges? Is there a unique problem in your way you're trying to solve now? Like what's the next step kind of thing, or what's going on now with this project?
So in terms of Open Soda,
Yeah.
So for me, I'm kind of pretty much done with Open Soda. So right now, pretty much it's just everything is in my way because I'm trying to make a workshop in my garage. But I don't want to just sell it off. I want it to actually go to someone who cares about it and will take care of it. And my friend Anthony, who has been involved with this for several years now, he's recently getting he just graduated from college with an engineering degree, and he's just waiting for a job offer. He has the contract. They put him through school to get this job, basically. And so once he gets the job, he's going to be able to have a place to actually take all this stuff, and hopefully it'll live on through it being at his house, and maybe we'll be back to PinguaCon full scale soon. One of the other big issues for me is I stopped drinking pop altogether. So it's kind of hard to like be the guy.
Irony.
It's kind of hard to be the guy that pushes a soda and then I don't drink it.
Yeah.
So because sugar, I mean, sugar's really bad for you, and that's all this is. It's just sugar water.
I was about to say, I mean, still some of the knowledge you've gained as far as it goes, like me as a bartender, because I don't okay. We don't normally self-indulge. I want to do this for the end of one episode here. I bartended, or I made a thing of bartending the Maker Faire after party the last couple of years, and
Nice.
so I did the cocktails for the after party, and some of the stuff you're on about, the flavor profiles and the this and the that. It's like this huge thing. Like I want to go upstairs to my bar. I mean, I was going to anyway. I want to go upstairs to my mini bar and experiment a little bit and see like what unique flavor can I do tonight, and what can I play around with. Like maybe I'll try to get bubble gum from red, white, and berries in a rose hip liqueur. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. But like, man, that it has me hooked to think that you've done this objectively a unsubjective and objective analysis of flavor profiles, of how to, like how to solidify that, because that is incredibly difficult work. The only other one who I can think of to have done it is Matt Arnold in his book Liquid Intelligence, which you might get something out of as well. It's a mixology book. But yeah, just it is something where it's down to the exact science, and there's arguments over nuance of how do you crack your ice versus what, shaken versus stirred versus, not liquid nitrogen versus centrifuge separate. Like, it's interesting. The objectification of something so artful, or seemingly, and pulling back that veil is incredibly satisfying. So I'm glad that we got to talk about open soda tonight.
Oh yeah. And honestly, I could go on for another 3 hours talking about open soda. I barely scratched the surface of my knowledge.
So we're going to give you a shot at a closing statement here, but we are drawing. The last couple of weeks we've kind of been getting around this later to the statement and all this. So I want to start to get a little more punctual. So as always, we're going to put your open soda and your cosplay page in our video description as soon as we can. So people will know opensoda.org and billputtcosplay.com to go there. And so the social media can be found below. Our Facebook, Instagram, and all that can be found below. Matt, go ahead, man. Take it away.
Yeah. If you'd like to know more about i3 Detroit, you can find us on Twitter or Facebook or any of the other social media platforms. There's a link in the description, as well as i3detroit.org/donate if you're interested in making a financial contribution. If you would like to have some of the things you're working on featured on the show, you can tag i3 Detroit on Instagram, or tweet at i3 Detroit or Thomas Tusano, or use the hashtag #MakeSomethingWonderful. We will not have a show next week, but we will be featuring those kinds of things when we return on the 11th.
I believe it's Tom Nardone, I believe, of the lawnmower gang the next show.
Oh, it's the 10th actually, but let me look at what the schedule is and see. I should have checked this before.
No, it's all right. I kind of jumped that on you too. So again, as we do sign off, and Bill, I am gonna allow you a closing statement. I promise. I said I would. I said I would, so I'm gonna. We'd like to remind you folks as we sign off here that we also do partner with the SynShop, located at 1075 American Pacific Drive, Suite C, in lovely Henderson, Nevada. And linked below is their YouTube channel, where you can tune in to continue the conversation on making and hacking with Crux and the mighty Pong. And so, Bill, before I deliver my tagline closer, I'd like to give you the floor for one last final statement as to what you'd like to tell the people at home.
All right. Well, I appreciate you letting me talk to everyone here. This has been a lot of fun. I certainly enjoy making and discussing my making about stuff. So if you want to look me up on any of my sites and have a longer discussion, feel free to find me. If you are ever in the Michigan area and come to a convention, you'll probably find me in one of my elaborate cosplays. I can't wait for bar crawls to be a thing again, because I love going in costume in bar crawls. And the tagline for Open Soda is "Make it your own." So tonight, I guess, make it your own. Wonderful.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Bill. And you've been an excellent guest. And again, we've been telling the guests that we will be catching up with them, once things calm down out there. And I would love to be able to be at PenguinCon and see Open Soda in action as far as it goes. So with that, folks, I'd like to let you all, just a reminder to make something wonderful and stay your amazing selves. Again, no show next week, 4th of July holiday, please. We're not make our producer and my lovely co-host Matt here work that weekend. I mean, yes, it's a labor of love, but still, we all need time off from our routines. So next week, go get slammed and cause some ruckus with fire. Just come back to us in one piece. You hear me?
We'll see you on the 10th of July.
Yes, we'll see you on the 10th. So with that, I will more or less tell Rob, please, Rob, if you would so kindly play us off. And he will let us know when we are out of the sight and earshot of those at home.
While that's happening, you should hop over to the schedule.
Oh, yes.